Facing investigation after shocking clash with Coco Gauff, tennis hasn't seen a moment this explosive in years. What should have been a respectful Grand Slam showdown turned into a controversy spiraling out of control. One comment, one reaction, and suddenly the world number one found herself under fire. Fans demanded answers, analysts questioned her integrity. Whispers of unsportsmanlike conduct spread like wildfire across the tennis world. And as pressure mounted, Sabalenka's response only made the drama sharper. Was this just frustration after a tough loss, or something far more serious? Because after this clash, nothing between Sabalenka and Gauff will ever be the same again. Before the clash, before the headlines, before the word investigation even entered the conversation, everything pointed toward Aryna Sabalenka standing on top of the tennis world. She walked into the tournament with the confidence of a champion who had already fought through storms and still found ways to rise. Her power, her presence, her mentality, all of it made her the player no one wanted on the other side of the net. But this wasn't just any tournament. This was the stage where pressure becomes louder, expectations become heavier, and every emotion becomes impossible to hide. And for Sabalenka, nothing added more fuel to the fire than knowing Coco Gauff was chasing her again. Their rivalry had been building quietly, match after match, each one revealing a new layer of tension. They respected each other, sure, but respect doesn't cancel competition. Respect doesn't soften ambition, respect doesn't silence rivalry. From the first round, fans could feel it coming, the possibility of another Sabalenka versus Gauff showdown. A storyline already written in shadows long before the match was officially confirmed. Sabalenka's dominance was obvious. Her serve was a weapon. Her ground strokes were exploding off the racket. Commentators kept repeating the same phrase, "She looks unstoppable," but Gauff was not the type to step aside. She had beaten Sabalenka on massive stages. She had the speed, the discipline, the fire. And she had something else too, a calm that Sabalenka had always struggled to match. Coco never needed to shout to show strength. She never needed theatrics to make noise. Her silence was louder than Sabalenka's intensity. And that contrast alone was enough to make every meeting between them feel like a psychological duel. By the time the final arrived, the tension wasn't just on the court, it was in the audience. In the locker room. In the media rooms where journalists whispered about body language, last matches, little moments only insiders noticed. Everyone knew it was going to be emotional. Everyone knew someone would break before it was over. But no one expected it would go the way it did. Sabalenka walked into the arena with the aura of a player ready to swallow the moment whole. Yet there was something different this time, something restless beneath her composure. The weight of expectations sat on her shoulders heavier than ever. She wanted to prove she was the strongest player in the world. She wanted to beat Coco Gauff. She wanted to silence every voice that doubted her toughness under pressure. The match hadn't even begun, and the energy already felt like the beginning of a storm. Two rivals. Two contrasting worlds, two paths colliding again, not just for a trophy, but for pride, validation, and control. No one could predict it then. But this final wouldn't just define a champion. It would ignite a controversy that would follow Sabalenka long after the last point was played. The stadium was electric the moment Sabalenka and Gauff stepped onto the court, a clash of intensity versus composure, raw power versus calculated precision. Fans expected fire, drama, and brilliance, but they didn't know they were about to witness the spark that would ignite the loudest controversy of the season. From the opening games, something felt off. Sabalenka started swinging big, as she always does. But her timing was scattered, her footwork a step late, her reaction slightly delayed. Instead of controlled aggression, it looked like frustration brewing at every mis-hit. Balls she normally crushed into corners were landing meters out. Her signature roar, the one she used to lift herself, was replaced with sharp breaths and increasingly tense glances toward her team box. Across the net, Coco Gauff wasn't doing anything dramatic. She wasn't provoking, she wasn't showboating. She was just playing her patterns, staying patient, letting Sabalenka unravel point by point. And that might have been the biggest trigger of all. Because when a player like Sabalenka feels the match slipping, the pressure doesn't just touch her, it grabs her by the throat. The errors kept piling up. 1, 5, 10, 20. The crowd gasped each time the ball clipped the net or flew long. Sabalenka's frustration became visible. The clenched jaw, the shaking head, the moments where she bounced the ball but couldn't calm her hands enough to serve. Still, she fought. She took risks. She refused to back down. And for a while, the match became a tug-of-war between belief and panic. But as the final set began, the emotions boiled over. Sabalenka looked at her box after a missed forehand and shouted something no one could ignore. The cameras captured every second. Commentators went silent. Fans exchanged looks. The energy shifted from competitive to volatile. And then came the moment that would define everything that followed. When the match ended, Gauff victorious, relieved, emotional, Sabalenka approached the net with a quick handshake, expression tight and unreadable. It wasn't disrespectful, but it wasn't warm either. It was the handshake of someone who wasn't ready to accept what had just happened. But the real shock came minutes later. In the press conference, Sabalenka didn't hide her feelings. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She didn't even try. Instead, she spoke with a rawness that instantly set the tennis world on fire. She admitted she lost control. She admitted she was emotional. But then she added the line that would dominate social media within minutes. She didn't win because she played incredible. She won because I made all those mistakes. That one sentence spread everywhere, dissected, criticized, amplified. Some called it honesty. Others called it arrogance. But almost everyone agreed on one thing. It was a spark thrown into a room soaked in gasoline. Reporters started questioning whether her comments crossed a line. Fans accused her of disrespect. Analysts debated whether she broke sportsmanship rules. And as the noise grew louder, whispers began circulating. Would the WTA take action? Was Sabalenka now facing more than just a tough loss? The fallout had begun, and there was no going back. The moment Sabalenka's comments hit the internet, everything changed. What started as a difficult loss instantly transformed into the biggest firestorm of her season. Within minutes, clips from the press conference were circulating everywhere, edited, repeated, slowed down, highlighted in bold captions. The tennis world didn't just hear her words. They felt them, and the reactions were immediate. Fans who once praised her honesty suddenly turned against her. Comment threads flamed with accusations. Words like poor sportsmanship, unprofessional, and disrespectful flooded every platform. People weren't debating the match anymore, they were debating Sabalenka's character. Some fans defended her, insisting she was simply emotional in the heat of defeat. They argued that honesty shouldn't be punished, that every athlete cracks under pressure, and that Sabalenka had always been an open book. But their voices were drowned out by a much louder crowd, the ones calling her out, demanding accountability, insisting she crossed a line she couldn't just walk back from. And then came the analysts. Every talk show, every tennis panel, every former player with a microphone had an opinion. Some said she disrespected a rising star at the peak of her career. Others said she broke the unwritten code of sportsmanship by implying Gauff didn't truly outplay her. A few even accused her of sabotaging the spirit of the final by making it all about her mistakes instead of Gauff's victory. The pressure intensified. Headlines got sharper. Debates got hotter. Social media turned the moment into a battleground where every post felt like a swing in an emotional war. And then, almost out of nowhere, a new phrase started circulating. Is Sabalenka facing investigation? No one knew where it started. No one knew who said it first. But suddenly everyone was repeating it. Fans speculated that the WTA might step in. Bloggers claimed her conduct violated the sportsmanship code. Commentators hinted that her outburst toward her box and her press conference remarks could trigger disciplinary review. It didn't matter if it was true or exaggerated. The seed had been planted, and it grew fast. Every hour, more voices joined the storm. Neutral observers turned critical. Former champions weighed in with disappointment. Even public figures outside tennis chimed in, turning the situation into a wider conversation about attitude, humility, and respect. Meanwhile, Gauff supporters amplified the narrative even more. They pushed the idea that Coco handled the moment with grace, while Sabalenka cracked under pressure and lashed out unfairly. Whether intentional or not, the storyline became crystal clear. Gauff, calm. Sabalenka Nal Horek. The internet chose its sides quickly. By the next morning, Sabalenka's name trended globally for all the wrong reasons. Reporters asked the same question in press rooms. Will the tour respond? Will Sabalenka be sanctioned? Is this officially under review? For Sabalenka, the noise wasn't outside anymore. It was around her, suffocating, multiplying, chasing her from interviews to practice sessions. She couldn't ignore it, she couldn't outrun it. The backlash had become too loud, too sharp, too personal, and for the first time, it wasn't just about the match she lost. It was about the reputation she stood to lose next. Everything was spiraling, and all eyes were waiting for her response. When the backlash reached its peak, Sabalenka finally broke her silence. Not on camera, not in a press room filled with bright lights and microphones, but privately, quietly, in a way that revealed how deeply the moment had shaken her. 4 hours after the match, she had avoided speaking. Her team said she needed time. Her close circle said she was exhausted. But the truth was more complicated. Sabalenka wasn't just dealing with a tough loss. She was dealing with the feeling that she had let the world see the exact version of herself she tries so hard to hide. The version that cracks, the version that gets emotional, the version that sometimes loses control. So when she finally chose to respond, it wasn't with fire. It wasn't with excuses. It was with something far more vulnerable: clarity. She admitted to herself first, and then to the world, that she had lost her composure. She said she wasn't proud of the way she handled the moment. She said she let pressure get inside her head. And for the first time since the final, she confronted her own words. She didn't blame Gauff. She didn't attack the umpires. She didn't claim unfairness. Instead, she acknowledged the chaos inside her during the match. She talked about the 70 errors she made.